Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we're doing another reviews and ratings episode where I review and rate all the different games I've been playing in the past 2 weeks with friends, family, and even solo. We're going to be talking about 9 games today. I'm going to start with my least favorite and go into my favorite. I'm going to give a quick overview, a very brief overview, very brief review of it, and give it my final rating for that particular game. As always, we're starting with my least favorites and going into my favorites for these last couple weeks. So let's start at the bottom of the barrel. And I would say this is a good group of games. There's a couple that are kind of mediocre games, but there are some really good games here. And so yes, let's start at the bottom. This is Nanga Parbat, or however you pronounce this. This is a game by Steve Finn, and it's a very small box game. And the game basically consists of this board that's got 6 pyramids on there, and on each of these pyramids are 6 spots that have animals on them. On your turn, you are going to go to one of these pyramids that has this yellow worker on it, and you're going to take one of the animals. And whatever the animal was, you're going to place one of your personal meeples in that spot. You get to take that animal onto your personal player board, and then you move that yellow meeple to whichever spot you took that animal from. So if you took an animal from spot 3, you move the yellow meeple to pyramid 3, and then the next person has to take from that particular pyramid. Throughout their game, there's things that you can do, some sub-actions basically, where you can activate some of these animals. Each of these animals has some kind of ability on them, like switch meeples from one adjacent meeple to the other adjacent meeple or whatever, or move animals here and there. You can, on your turn as well, if you have a bunch of adjacent meeples that are yours, you can turn them into camps. When you turn them into camps, you're going to get points depending on how many camps you made. You can turn in sets of animals, whether the same type of animal or different types of animal. Even if you've activated those animals, you can basically give them away for points. And that's pretty much the game. It's a very simple, straightforward game. And this is going to get a 6 rating for myself because I enjoy parts of this game. The end of this game, when you get to start activating those animals, get to start doing clever moves, that's when the game is fun. But this is a very short game, so that sweet spot for me, where I start liking the game, is a very short window. You know, the game's 20 to 30 minutes. That sweet spot of that window is maybe 5 to 10 minutes of it. So more than half the game, I think, is kind of a dud for me, where part of the game I enjoy, but that's a very small part of it. So I don't like the start of the game, middle of the game, but the end of the game is when I get to start doing clever moves, but it's just not long enough of a period where I'm going to recommend this game to a lot of people. It's a 6 rating. It's interesting, but it feels almost like an incomplete game to me. But yeah, a 6 for Nanga Parbat. Going on to the next game. The next game is Okatoa. This is a game that was created by, I guess, Critical Role. And I used to watch Critical Role back years ago. I haven't for a few years now. But this is a game where you have a bunch of tiles on this board and a bunch of different colored meeples on there. And there's this monster called Okatoa that is going to be moving, a couple slots, some turns, depending on how players move. But you control 2 factions in this game, basically. You control a faction here and a faction here. And then the person on your left controls one of those factions and another faction from the player to their left. And so each person controls 2 of these factions. You are trying to be the person that has your 2 factions left on the board when all the other factions have been eliminated. So you're kind of controlling 2 factions, but half the factions are controlled by other people, shared with you. And you are going to be moving around the board by playing out these cards. These cards are like move Okatoa 1 spot, move a meeple a couple spots, stuff like that, to try to manipulate the board, to try to kill off the other meeples that are controlled by other people and not yourself. And you're just trying to have your meeples left. This one's going to get a 6.5. It's a very snappy game. It's got moments that are fun and stuff like that. But there's some issues with this game. Like at the start of the setup, you're putting out these meeples. You say, hey, put out these meeples in a way that you want. But then you do a random, you don't even know which meeples are going to be yours. So the random setup at the start that you were controlling might not even benefit you. So I don't really like that part of it. It's so fast, so simple, that I don't think there's a lot of replay value here, but if someone went and asked me, hey, you want to play Okatoa? I'd be like, okay, sure. I mean, it's 15, 20 minutes, but just know it's an extremely simple game. So yes, 6.5 for Okatoa. Going to the next game. The next game is a worker placement game. This is a revised edition. This is Ex Libris Revised Edition. And this is a worker placement game that you are going to be alphabetizing your own library. You're creating this library with a bunch of different books, and you're trying to put these books, which are cards, in the correct order in your area. And, it's basically a tile laying game. It's this puzzle. You want to put these in the correct order. And some books are going to score you more, depending on your personal player goal. And then some books are going to be negative points. And there's these worker placement spots. That's how you're basically doing all of this. And these worker placement spots are constantly changing. Each round, new set of worker placement spots are going to come out. This one's going to get a 7. 6.5 actually. 6.5 is what I settled on. It's kind of in between there for me because I like the game itself. But there's a huge downfall to this game for me, is that these worker placement spots that you're going to, and they're constantly changing, they're like 2 or 3 paragraphs long each for these spots. You're like, what's the spot do again? And you read for a couple minutes of what that spot does. And so I don't really like that part of it. Another big downfall is it's kind of small print. So it's like, what was that worker placement spot over there? I go stand over there and read it because it's such small print. So there's some big downfalls to this game. But the theme I really like, the actions I enjoy. It's a very light game. But those big worker placement spots with those big paragraphs, that kind of is a big downfall to me. So if they made those worker placement spots a little bit simpler, a little less wordy, and bigger print for the words as well, then this game would jump up probably another point or so. So yeah, 6.5 for Ex Libris Revised Edition. Going to the next one. The next one is a Stonemaier game, but not the one that you're going to think of. This is Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which is a combination of 2 different games. The Between Two Cities game, which was a Stonemaier game, and then the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which I've never played that one. I've played Between Two Cities a few times back in the day. I ended up getting rid of that one. This one I enjoy a little bit more. But in this game, like Okatoa, you're kind of controlling 2 things. You're basically building 2 castles. You're building a castle with the person on your left, and you're building a castle with the person on your right. And at the end of the game, you take the scores of your 2 castles that you have, and you score whatever the lower point castle was. But how you're building that castle throughout the game is you are drafting these tiles and putting these tiles into your castle, and your partner on the left and on the right is putting stuff on your castles as well. So you're trying to cooperate. If I put this one here and you put that one there, okay, that's worth points. Because this is a city building game, basically. Like, oh, I put this tile here, now it wants sleeping rooms next to it. So you're going to get points for extra sleeping rooms. So you're trying to cooperate with that other person putting it there. And it's a nice drafting, sort of cooperative game. And it's going to get a 7 rating from myself. I enjoy the city building aspect of it, building out that castle, making interesting decisions. The drafting, I always like drafting. If you have drafting in your game, it gets a little bump for me. The part that I don't like, it's going to get a 7. I do enjoy this game, but I would enjoy this game more if I was just building my own castle, rather than, I'm building a castle with you over here, and I'm building a castle with you over here. I'd rather me just concentrate on my one castle and drafting, and I think I would enjoy that game more than, trying to build a castle with 2 different people in 2 different castles and cooperating in that way, but you're competing in this. So it's a weird game. It's very much like Between Two Cities, but this one, I like this one more than Between Two Cities because I enjoy the scoring a little bit more. I think the scoring's a little bit more complex, a little bit more interesting. But yes, 7 rating for Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Going to the next one. The next one is a classic game. This is a classic auction game. This is Modern Art, which is the auction game. If you like auction games, you should have this in your collection because all you're doing in this game is auctioning. You are basically selling paintings in this game, and you're taking turns being whoever's the auctioneer for their particular round or if that turn, and you're going to be putting out one of your paintings for sale. And all these paintings are by different artists, and they have different types of auctions. You can have auctions that are, an open-ended auction where you just outbid each other like crazy. You can have an auction that is just a one-time around. Everybody has to beat the other person if they want it. You can have a hidden auction. There's like 5 different types of auctions in this game. And at the end of the round, the paintings that you bought are going to be worth, they're going to be worth more for that particular painter if they've sold the most. So whoever's sold the most paintings for that artist, their paintings are worth the most. The person who sold the least is going to not be worth anything, actually, usually. And if it's going to get a 7 rating. I enjoy it. It's if you like auction games, you're probably going to really like this one. If you don't like auction games, stay away from this one. The reason why it's not higher for me is this really comes down to, it feels like Math the board game. I've said that about another game before, like Power Grid. Power Grid feels like Math the board game. In this one, I'm doing a lot of math. I'm like, okay, I'm buying this one from you for 50, but I'm actually only going to probably score like 10 points from it, 10 money from it. Is it benefiting you more? Because the money, if you're selling it, you're going to get the money for that. So you're trying to math out what is the best possible way to win this game. And that's fine, but it does feel like very mathy to me at points. So yeah, 7 rating for modern art. Going to the next one. The next one is a small little card game. This is Marvel Fluxx. This is Fluxx, but with the Marvel theme pasted on top of it. And what is Fluxx? Fluxx is a very simple, fast-paced card game where at the start of the game, there's no way to win. At the start of the game, there's 2 rules. You draw 1 card and you play 1 card. Some of the cards are going to be keepers, which go in front of you. Some of the cards are going to be actions, which are going to give you some kind of action. There are also goal cards that you can put out, and goal cards is going to be how you can win the game. You're like, okay, there's no way to win the game, but now let's play out this goal card that says if you have Thor and Loki in front of you, that's how you win the game. You're going to be constantly changing goals. The keepers in front of you are going to be constantly changing. You might be stealing keepers from other people. This is going to get a 7.5 for me. I like Fluxx. I especially like Fluxx at 2 players. At like 4 and 5 players, I'd rather stay away from Fluxx. But at lower player counts, I really enjoy Fluxx. It's kind of my guilty pleasure game where a lot of people don't seem to like Fluxx, but I love the chaotic nature of Fluxx. So it's like it can end at any moment. You're like, okay, I'm playing this, and the person's like, okay, I'm playing out this new gold card. The game's over. And you're like, oh, but the game is so fast. If you're playing 2 players, which is what I like it at, it's going to take anywhere from 2 minutes to 15 minutes. I've enjoyed Fluxx over the years, and I think this is a good version of it, especially, it's a very popular IP. Everybody knows these people. Everybody knows Iron Man. So it's a good one. I enjoy it. So yes, 7.5 for Marvel Fluxx. Going to the next one. The next one, coincidentally, is another Marvel game. This is expansion, though. This is Marvel United X-Men Blue Team, which has 4 new heroes that you can play as, and then 1 new villain you can verse. You've got the heroes of Gambit, Jubilee, Psylocke, and Rogue, and you're versing Mr. Sinister, and this just combines with all the other Marvel United stuff you have. This expansion feels like nostalgia for me. This feels like the X-Men cartoon that I was watching when I was a kid that I really enjoyed. So I saw this expansion, like, I kind of have to get this one. This one's going to get an 8. I like the heroes. I like the villain. Mr. Sinister is a pretty straightforward, easy villain, I would say. He's just trying to go around the board collecting DNA. If he gets, I think it's 12 DNA, he ends up winning. It's very straightforward, very fast, one that I enjoyed. I like the characters because of nostalgia. And yeah, it's going to get an 8 rating because it doesn't get higher. I love Marvel United, and I keep liking it more and more. I rate Marvel United right now a 9. I like this one, but it's not going to get a higher rating for one reason. Cost. Now, this expansion has got 4 characters and 1 villain. It costs about $30. That's usually what you can get core boxes for, the 3 different core boxes that are out currently. And the original core box you can get for much cheaper than that. But this one has got 4 characters, 1 villain. Core boxes have like 6 to 8 heroes and 2 to 4 villains in them. And so this, if you like Marvel United and you have all the core boxes, then you can start looking at this as an option to buy. But I would definitely get the core boxes first and then start moving into these smaller expansions because they are pricier for what you're getting, but I enjoy what is in this box. So yeah, an 8 rating for Marvel United X-Men Blue Team. Going to the next one. The next one is the game that is getting the most hype so far this year. This is the new Stonemaier game. This is Wyrmspan, which is the sequel to, of course, Wyrmspan. Except this one has dragons. It's very similar in structure to Wyrmspan. You're going to be playing out these cards in this tableau area, and then you're going to be activating each of these rows, trying to build out this engine, basically. You're like, okay, I've got these, now I'm going to activate this row, and I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and this. I have a pretty in-depth talk about this game in comparison to Wyrmspan a couple videos ago, but I figured I'd put a quick review on it. I like Wyrmspan a lot. Wyrmspan, in comparison, I like it a little bit less, but I still really like it. The reasons why I don't like it as much is it's a little bit lengthier. There is some downtime because of how the turn structure is in this game. Like, I might have 5 turns this round, and you might have 8 or 9 turns. So if you've got that many more actions, there's quite a bit of downtime if the turns aren't equal for that particular round. And so yeah, it's going to get an 8.5. I really, really like it, but it's not on the level of Wyrmspan for myself. I know some people are going to like this more. I think this is a more complex game. Not in mechanics. I don't think it's a more complex game there. I think it's just as easy to learn this one as Wyrmspan, but the thinkiness of this one is more there. I'm like, what am I going to do on my turn? Am I going to do this, which I got to do this to do this? You're trying to combo things in your head, like trying to be as efficient as you can, more so than you do in Wyrmspan. But yeah, 8.5, I really enjoy it. And just to settle this, to me, I don't think it's just a reskin. I think there's quite a bit of differences between this one and Wyrmspan. And if you want to know the more differences, go check out my comparison video. So yeah, 8.5 for Wyrmspan. Going on to the last game we're going to be talking about today, and that is Daybreak. I've got it right there. Actually, this is a cooperative game by Matt Leacock, the person who made Pandemic. I love Pandemic. Like I said, this is a cooperative game, and this is a card-driven game. And it feels like some Pandemic. It feels a little bit like Spirit Island. It feels a little bit like Terraforming Mars in some aspects. In this game, you have this engine, basically, that are cards. And it's going to be tag-driven. All these cards have different tags on them. And everybody's going to be working together, but on their own separate stuff for the most part. And you're trying to stop global warming is basically the theme of this one. But you are going to be playing as one country, and everybody's taking their turns simultaneously. And you have this engine of cards in front of you, and then each round you're going to get cards. And you can play a card behind a card, which are these cards on top are basically actions. You can play a card behind that card to keep that action and add more tags to it. And the more tags on a particular action, usually the stronger that action is going to get. You can play a card in front of that action and replace that action with a new card on the new action on that card. But you're going to add the tags from the previous ones. Or a lot of these cards, these actions, are going to cause you to discard a card in order to activate that action. And there is a lot of decisions. It's multi-use cards. Are you going to play this card for the new action? Or are you going to play this card as a support to add more tags to a previous action? Or are you going to discard this card along the way to activate these different actions? There are different events that are happening, and adding more pollution and stuff like that. There are good events that are going to be happening, and you're just trying to get rid of your pollution and hope everybody is doing well on their turn as well. This one's going to get an 8.5. The card-driven mechanic of this game is top tier. I love that part of this game. I love the mechanics of this game. The reason why it's not an 8.5, or it is an 8.5 and not a 10, which I would say the mechanics of this game are a 10. I adore that. It's so fun making that engine of tags and actions and how you're going to use your cards. There's a lot of fun, hard decisions in this game. It's an 8.5 and not a 10. Because the end of the game, I don't feel that tension like I like in cooperative games. Each game I've played of this, and I think I've played it 6 times now, I want to say, because I really enjoy it. Each time I've played it, the end of the game came as no surprise, whether I won or whether I lost. From the start of the game, it felt like, oh, I'm losing or I'm winning pretty easily. So I'm like, each round I'm like, yeah, we're about to win. Or, yeah, we lost, but we just got to play it out. And that really hurts the game for me. It's still a great game, 8.5 for me, but this is a game that the mechanics of it could have been a 10 for me. I love the mechanics of this. I love that card system. But the lack of tension that I have each game that I've played of it really has hurt it and has been a downfall for it for a little bit. I would still recommend it. It's fun. I really hope they take this system of mechanics and put it in a different game that is going to have a little bit more tension for me. But yeah, 8.5 for Daybreak. Great game. But anyways, that will complete this reviews and ratings episode. Make sure to comment down below. What are your thoughts on some of these games? If you played them, if you haven't, if you do disagree with me, if you agree with me. Either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.